This is a nothing. Yes, did they play perfect? No, they still win. Yes.
What are you doing if the Celtics win the championship?
If the Celtics win championship, I might break my sobriety. I might act up.
We did it! You got him.
All the way.
Celtics versus Heat. Celtics in what?
4.
Celtics versus Knicks. Celtics in
4.
You got Celtics in 4? Hell yeah.
Use a vocab word from a couple years ago. It's mind-boggling.
That's it, DRG. Let's go. What do you think tonight?
You think I'm worried about the Warriors? I ain't worried about the
Let's
Warriors.
go, baby. 18, baby. Load up the boat.
Why would you say that?
Because
I'm not- no, and
recently he's
hold
putting
on,
up
hold
games
on.
like
above our head for the players.
literally right now.
But I think when Marcus, especially Marcus, when he got traded, I think that was a wake-up call.
You think
Rob.
right now
Rob,
it's still New York?
I do.
And when I think of the Celtics dynasty, honestly, one of the first names that comes to my mind is actually Brad Stevens.
Woo, 7 in a row? 7 in a row? What is that? 13 of the last 14 for the C's? No Tatum tonight? No problem? Whew. Tell you what, they made it worth staying up, guys. They did. What is going on, everybody? Welcome back into another late night Celtics Talk Weekly post-game show. I'm your host, Rob Ate, and joined with me are my two co-hosts, Griffin Aldrich and Seamus Zarlingo. Guys, I'm happy right now. You know, it's 1 a.m. and I'm still happy, and the vibes are there because the Boston Celtics, like I said earlier, are winners of 7 in a row. They are a perfect 4-0 on this West Coast road trip with 2 games remaining, guys. Tonight, they pulled out a win in Phoenix in a dominating fashion. 132-102 was your final score. Again, Jason Tatum, who went down just 48 hours ago against Sacramento with that right ankle sprain, was listed as doubtful for this game. He was upgraded to questionable later on in the day after testing it out in pregame. We saw those videos via Adam Himmelsbach come out of him kind of going through his normal routine. It was eventually decided later, a mutual agreement between him and the team doctors, that he was going to sit this one out. We'll get into that a little bit more later. Guys, again, big win, Celtics, 7 in a row. They're heating up at the right time. Your overall thoughts, reactions, takeaways on another Celtics win?
I thought just incredible. I've had a lot of concern about the Boston Celtics as of recently. You guys know that. I hated how they were building terrible habits and kind of building up big leads and just falling apart with that, but that's not what the Boston Celtics did tonight. The Boston Celtics built up a big lead and they kept it. I mean, you look at it, 42 points in the first quarter, and they just kept their foot on the gas pedal, and that's what you want to see from the Boston Celtics. But in addition to that, overall, I just thought it was great team basketball. We were just offensively synced, passing the ball, making good shots, having good looks, just playing as a team. And you already mentioned it, Rob, with no Jason Tatum, the Boston Celtics were still able to manage and get this win tonight. And it was just a great team W. I mean, we'll get into it later, obviously, with Porzingis, but he had a great game. Jaylen Brown had a great game. Al had a great game with 16 points, 10 rebounds. And you had, obviously, I liked what I saw at the end from Baylor Shireman, some good looks with the, bench boys coming in at the end. Just overall, I thought this was an amazing game and just great team basketball. It's a game that not a lot of people are going to stay up for, but it was fun to watch. And I mean, you also look at it from this aspect, it shows you how well our Celtics fans can travel, because it felt like a home game in that building a lot of the times tonight. And the crowd was there. I was there getting hyped up from it. Just, it was a basketball game that you want to watch. And it's a basketball game that the Boston Celtics haven't really played much this year. I mean, it was really good team basketball, and they kept their foot on the gas pedal all the way through. The only other game I could think of is that Raptors game when we blew them out. But other than that, I haven't seen this great of a team win all year long, I think, in my opinion. But overall, I love what I saw. And just I love the basketball we're playing, and we kept our foot on that gas pedal. And look at the end result, 132 to 102. You can't ask for a better night.
Absolutely.
Well, Griffin, you said it there at the end. I mean, this might have been the best game all season for the Boston Celtics, and the way in which they played in this game really signifies where this team is going right now, because no Jason Tatum tonight in the lineup, as we all knew. And we will say we got an encouraging update on that earlier. Of course, Griffin, we were recording earlier when we got that update, and Jason Tatum upgraded from doubtful to questionable earlier. So obviously people, and after that was downgraded to out for the evening. However, the we talked about some of the virtue signaling that happens in the injury reports around the NBA, where we don't necessarily see anything happen with the labels, like, okay, doubtful, questionable, who really cares, like he's still up in the air. But still, that upgrade, or potentially in another scenario a downgrade, that signals typically the severity of somebody's injury. And Jason Tatum, him being upgraded to questionable from doubtful today, that really signals something good for the Boston Celtics, showing us all that Jason Tatum's injury might not be that serious whatsoever. It's a sprained ankle. However, he was working out earlier today on court, and we kind of gave that update as well, that there was that mutual agreement he would sit out this game. But moving forward, it does look like Jason Tatum will be healthy for the NBA playoffs when the playoffs roll around in a couple of weeks. We'll have to see how he looks out on court the next time he's out there, but it doesn't feel like it's going to be too long until we see Jason Tatum again. Regardless, the Boston Celtics were without Jason Tatum tonight, and in this game, the Boston Celtics continuously played team basketball, and that's what they've been doing as of late. The Boston Celtics. That's a theme of the Celtics recently. The Celtics team basketball, that aspect of themselves, has really been ignited within this team. I thought at the beginning of the season, I mean, we all know this offense really revolves around Jason Tatum, which could have made a game like tonight's extremely tough for the Celtics, yet that really isn't what it was. I mean, earlier in the season, we saw moments where the Celtics didn't have Jason Tatum. They would really struggle in those games, and it felt like Tatum and Pritchard, they were the bulk of the offense earlier this season, and guys around them were just kind of shot chucking. Now, feels like everybody is in a rhythm. Feels like everybody is in a flow. And it feels like now Jason Tatum, when he's out of the lineup, the team isn't panicking and going, what do we do when our guy JT is out of the rotation? Well, tonight we saw they passed yet again to over 30 assists, I believe, on the night. The Boston Celtics did. That's been another trend of the Celtics as of late, just passing to those assists, those big assist numbers, really getting everybody on the team involved. And we're seeing a more all-around scoring effort from the Boston Celtics as of late as well. So after this game, 30-point win against the Phoenix Suns, who we could talk more about the Suns team later on, but my goodness, Phoenix, I feel like this is their 2018-19 run, although way worse. I mean, the 2018-19 Celtics run, let me specify that, 2018-19 Celtics, not the Suns. Right. But the Celtics that year, they're the 4 seed, so they weren't this bad. But that year, it felt like, are the Celtics, are they ever going to ramp up? It's like, they're underachieving. They keep losing these uncharacteristic games, and they really just didn't look as great of a team as we once thought they were. Well, Phoenix, that's been the story of them this season. Can they get it going? They don't really look as great as we thought they were going to be. And then at the end of the year, this is what the 2018-19 Celtics did. They'd give us a little win streak here or there. They'd give us a game out in Golden State where they beat the 2018-19 Warriors. And they go, here we go. Are we on the uprise? That was Phoenix the last 4 games. The Phoenix Suns the last 4 games. 4 straight wins. Everybody's going, the Phoenix Suns, they're rolling. Well, Phoenix, what they've shown all season is what they showed us tonight in this 30-point loss. I mean, they're lackadaisical on defense. When they get beat on the defensive end of the floor, it seems like the motivation goes down. Offensively, there's a lot of quick trigger stuff with the Phoenix offense when it comes to Kevin Durant, Devin Booker, and everybody involved in that situation. I just don't see Phoenix. I mean, they're the 11-10 seed out west. They're in the 10th spot right now. They were 11 last week. I don't see them making a run whatsoever. This is a highly disappointing team, but if you really look at all their pieces, they're a little old, they're a little small, their personalities don't really seem to mesh together, and the Celtics coming in hot, 7-game win streak. I mean, they're going for back-to-back titles this year. They completely ate this Phoenix Suns team alive and really showed Phoenix, those last 4 games, maybe a little fluky for Phoenix. This was the real Phoenix we saw tonight, and I thought it was the real Boston Celtics as well in this 30-point margin we saw at the end.
Yeah, I'm on board with you guys in terms of this is probably the best team win of the season. These guys really needed this game without Tatum to play like this, just because what you guys said, it has really been a season predicated on a lot of Jason Tatum. And while the Celtics can still play winning and efficient basketball like that, it's gonna make everybody's life a lot easier if these other guys can do this. Huge shout out to Jaylen Brown tonight. I thought he had a much needed bounce back game coming back from that injury. He looked a little like a step behind last night or the other night in Sacramento. I thought tonight was a great opportunity for him to just kind of get his footing back out there. He did, and I thought he controlled the game in a very, very dominant fashion. Porzingis, again, he's just looking better and better, and I'd say he's as close to 100% as we've seen him in a Celtic uniform, and that's a very good sign here if they can manage him properly for the final 9 games of the season. To have him playing like this and healthy coming to the playoffs could be huge. My biggest takeaway from this game, guys, is no doubt that Al Horford and Drew Holiday are just simply saving it for the playoffs because they looked a step ahead of some of the younger guys tonight. And you've seen it really since January. Neither of them go over 30 minutes really, unless they really need to. They have both been sitting at 25, 26, 27 minutes a game. And you're starting to see that rest really catch up. And back in December, we were looking at Drew Holiday as a guy where it was like, okay, like, is he tired? Are these legs? Is this going to be a problem? You're starting to see Drew Holiday get that step. He scored 16 points tonight, and only 2 of those 6 baskets coming from behind the arc. That's a great sign from Drew. He's got a very, very effective presence down low when he's got that smaller guards on him. He did that tonight. I think you're going to see a lot more of that come playoff time. Same goes with Al Horford, 16 from Al, 16, 10, and 5 from Al, along with 3 stocks, mind you. This guy's 38, and he's still doing this. It's ridiculous. And only 2 of his 5 made baskets coming from behind the arc. Got to the free throw line 4 times, so they were aggressive tonight, and they were huge. Along with that, Hauser as well. I thought Hauser played very well. Hauser's playing well. He's hushing us up real quietly, real quickly too, on terms of that forward spot, that rest against Sacramento. I think it paid off for him, and we played 20 minutes. So again, for me, guys, I'm with you. I'm on board. Probably the best team win we've seen, at least on the calendar year. For the Boston Celtics in 2025. Let's take a look at the lead tracker. We say team win, guys. The sea of green, well, it made a return, and it was here for 48 minutes tonight, guys. This is a wire-to-wire victory for the Boston Celtics on the road. They took the lead at the start, and they never looked back. Boston obviously leading by as much as 34 points late into that third quarter, and Phoenix was never really able to get this back to a game after that second quarter. Guys, again, you look at what Boston's done here in the last 20 odd games. They're now 22-4 in their last 26. This is a team that has clearly ramped it up from an intensity standpoint. They looked like a much more engaged and physical team out there tonight when they really have nothing to play for with that 2 seed all but locked away from New York and behind Cleveland. This is a Phoenix team that is still fighting to get a chance at the playoffs in those play-in games, guys. So for you guys, seeing how the Celtics have played against some of teams now that are really still fighting for something in their ability to win in dominating fashions with guys in and out of the lineup, do you think that right now the Boston Celtics are the most ready for the playoffs team? When I say ready for the playoffs, it feels like their intensity has outmatched and outclassed pretty much every team they've seen here post All-Star break.
I mean, I'm just going to start off with this. Absolutely. I mean, the Boston Celtics, we've talked, Seamus has talked about a lot, that light switch that they're flipping on and off, kind of when they could have that intensity and stuff. But I think I feel like we've seen a lot of the Boston Celtics obviously playing basketball. They've been slacking off, but they've still been managing to get wins. Like, they've still been putting in that effort where it's needed to get those wins. But as of recently, you're seeing them just be dominant. I feel like there was a time where they're like, all right, let's just kind of slack off. Let's kind of, all right, let's do the minimal effort to be able to get the wins. Now you're starting to see them turn it up to a different pace. And I feel like you might see that for the rest of the season. It's totally a possibility to see the Boston Celtics start ramping it up slowly. And then once you get to those last few games, you're going to have your bench players start ramping it up like 100% because they want something to prove too, and they want to get a playoff spot as well. So I feel like you're going to continue to see the Boston Celtics start ramping it up. But ultimately, I want to kind of go back to your take, what you said earlier about how Drew Holiday and Al Horford just kind of saving it for playoffs. They were I love what I've seen from them, like especially in this game. Like Holiday having 16 points was just incredible, and it shows you how valuable they are in a playoff series. And that's also going to be a main reason, like a main PowerPoint going into the playoffs, because the ultimate goal, we all know it, is banner 19, to go back to back, do something that the 2008 Celtics didn't do something that we haven't seen in a long time in history. But ultimately, I think we're going to start back to like your question. We're going to start ramping it up slowly. Like you already see us starting to give it 100%. We didn't slack off today. We kept our foot on the gas pedal, and you're just going to continue to see this Boston Celtics team rise. And once we get to the playoffs, it's going to be full throttle. We're not giving up. We're not letting anything down because we don't want to mess up. The ultimate goal this year is banner 19, go back to back, and that is our mindset.
Right.
Well, looking at the landscape of the NBA right now and looking where the Celtics are relative to everybody else, you'd have to say the Boston Celtics are the most championship ready team because, number one, the Oklahoma City Thunder. For me personally, if there's really a team right now that I'm eyeing where I'm going, all right, they're on my radar. It's the Oklahoma City Thunder. Obviously, after the game we saw a couple weeks ago at the Garden, but just in general, I think the Thunder, their team definitely has some versatility that I look at and go, okay, that's going to be something come playoff time defensively. There's still more things to talk about the Thunder in terms of the playoffs and matchup wise, but just getting to other teams as well. The Thunder, number one, is their youth. And for me, they haven't done it before. The Lakers, they're new. You saw them go really, they were terrible without LeBron James when he went out of the lineup. And if you need a 40-year-old to, I know it's a 40-year-old LeBron James, of course, but if you need 40-year-old LeBron James that badly to just simply win ball games, I do look, there's some deficits there. The Denver Nuggets out west. The one thing about the Denver Nuggets I'll say is their 2023 championship run. It was 2 years ago, and some of those guys who were crucial on that championship team, they're simply gone. I mean, you look at Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, Bruce Brown, they're off that team now, and the Denver Nuggets now rely on younger guys like Christian Brown, Julian Strawther, Peyton Watson in their lineup, different personalities such as Russell Westbrook to really get the job done. And under those circumstances, we don't know that collection of guys how they would go about it within a specific playoff run. And that's just looking out west at some of the teams, the Grizzlies, the Rockets as well. You're not really throwing them into the Thunder. The Thunder's pool a little bit where they're young and experienced. I should say the Grizzlies have a little bit more experience in the playoffs, but for me, they have injury concerns with Ja Morant and availability concerns with him. But you look out east, that's where it's going to be important for the Celtics first off in this run. And the Cleveland Cavaliers, they're another team that just hasn't done it. They have experience on the roster and Donovan Mitchell, but they're a little young outside of Donovan Mitchell. And I'll say this about Cleveland is they've had a great regular season, but at the end of this regular season, they're starting to taper off just a little bit, and that's what he's talked to Franco. I mean, he told us all season he was waiting for this moment to happen where Cleveland kind of tapers off a little bit. But even outside of Cleveland in the East, the Knicks, they're a newly assembled squad. The Pacers, they're not so newly assembled. They have some experience, but we saw the Celtics simply had more talent than them last year in the conference finals. Pacers would have a better guard rotation this time around with Halliburton and Mathurin, but I still don't know if that's enough to really overcome the Boston Celtics. But you just look at the Boston Celtics alone. I know I'm talking about all these other teams and some of their flaws, but look at what's going right for the Boston Celtics. They've been here before with the same exact team last season. Now, are there some differences within the rotation and how everything plays out? Sure. But last season, I mean, we're talking about the real change and the swap the Celtics made was, well, you had O'Shea Brissett last year, now you have Torrey Craig this year. It's not the biggest change in the world for the Boston Celtics, and what they're doing right now is what championship teams do. I mean, last year Celtics won the championship, came into this year, started extremely well. We thought there was going to be a period where the Celtics could fall off a little bit. Remember, at the beginning of the season, it was completely plausible another team came and took the number one seed from the Boston Celtics. A lot of people thought the New York Knicks at the beginning of the year. But the Celtics, they fell off in that late December, early January segment of the season. And and looking back at that moment, it was characteristic of a back-to-back championship team or a championship squad to have sort of that hangover at a certain point in time after all the celebration, after all the hype is over. And that's what the Celtics went through. And now it almost feels like they're back in business and they're really back and getting serious into the gym on a nightly basis and playing just they're playing phenomenal basketball on both ends of the floor. The team basketball is something that really sticks out to me right now. Personally, just from the standpoint of tonight, we really saw it with Jason Tatum out of lineup. I mean, Jason Tatum, again, I said it earlier, the Celtics did not survive without Jason Tatum earlier this season. Tonight, Jason Tatum was out of the lineup and everything was clicking. I mean, early on, it was 7 of 9 from 3. We were 0 of 1 from 2, 7 of 9 from 3 to start this game. And just from there on out, we did miss a couple of shots there in the second quarter, but really that second quarter, we held them to that's where you see the both ends of the floor come into play for the Boston Celtics is only allowed 16 points in that second quarter. And Durant, he was a complete non-factor after scoring 16 points in the first quarter. So the Boston Celtics, they're really getting after it on both ends. You can see the ramp up for them right now. If we were playing anywhere near where we played in January, there would be huge concerns. But this team has completely turned it around from that point. And I know we have some statistics on some of the records here queued up, but I mean, literally
Well,
the records.
This is a great time to.
Them,
Yeah,
I mean,
let's
we
pull
might
that
as well
up.
get. But should we just get into this?
Yeah, 100%.
This now.
Pull that up.
Let's see. Here we go. John Corrales. I mean, when this ends in a Boston win, which was tonight's game against the Phoenix Suns, 7 wins in a row for the Boston Celtics, 12-1 in March, 15-3 since All-Star break, 19-4 in February and March. I mean, come on, 19-4 in the last 2 months for the Boston Celtics. I mean, we're basically at the end of March here. That's phenomenal. The Celtics record, we're far from 500 right now. We are back to the dominant ways. The beginning of the regular season, when the Celtics started 19-4, right? The Boston Celtics were considered title favorites at that point in time. And I will say they were considered title favorites throughout this season until literally the last week, which again we already talked about. Doesn't really make much sense considering some of the records and pace and what's happening. But regardless, the Boston Celtics 19-4. That's what they started the season. They're now 19-4 in February and March. I mean, we're back. I mean, we talked about when do we consider ourselves back? All right, I'm officially going back on that conversation in January now and saying, all right, past ourselves, we're back. We're back. We're 19-4 again. We are 19-4 again in the last 2 months, and from that point, it's like when we were 19-4 to start the season, everybody was going, we're on the train, we're going, we're chugging. We're all good. We're on the tracks. Went off the tracks a little bit, but considering we're 19-4 in our last, 23 games, that to me signifies right there, exemplifies the Boston Celtics are completely back playing team basketball, and they are the most championship-ready team just from a knowledge standpoint. They know how to make this run. They know what it looks like, and they know how to ramp up towards it, and that's what we're seeing right now from this ball club, and I have tremendous confidence that I really think the most dominant basketball of the season hasn't even happened yet for the Boston Celtics. And I thought really for most of the season, we've been really just ramping up into what we're about to see in 9 games from now, which is game 1 of the playoffs. That's where the Celtics are really ramping up to. That's where they're heading. And they're 100% the most championship ready team at this point in time. OKC title favorites. Fine, whatever. I mean, their average age is 24 years old, 25 years old.
Give me the value.
All right.
Thank you, bookies. Let me ask you this, Seamus. Oh God. All right, there we go. I thought I lost my Wi-Fi for a second. All right, let me ask you this. So you say the Celtics are back. I tend to agree with you. However, start of this year, there was on this program too, on the podcast especially, There was a conversation that was had that was asking, are the Celtics going to be better than what we saw last year? So let me ask you this. While the Celtics are they back and better than they were last year? Are they playing better basketball? Because some of what I'm seeing right now, we talk about Jason Tatum. He's gotten better. We're looking at Kristaps Porzingis. This is probably the best Kristaps Porzingis we've seen. We look at Peyton Pritchard. Peyton Pritchard has gotten better. We look at Jaylen Brown. At times this season, you can say, yeah, Jaylen Brown has gotten better, right? Really, throughout the roster, you look at it, the cohesion, the games like this that we've seen, the domination, the intensity, they've learned and unlocked that championship DNA. Do you think, guys, that this Celtics team right now might just be better than last year's team, even though it's the same roster?
Can I answer that really quick?
Oh yeah, go ahead, Griffin.
I'm gonna say yes. Obviously, we had that struggle. You guys, it's undeniable. We had that struggle, and that could have been cause of coasting. But ultimately, I'm gonna say yes because it's just that chemistry. You guys know that for just even high school and college basketball, when you're like we talked about this at Celtics Nation Rise with yesterday's podcast, when you're in a 4-year school.
I gotta interrupt you. I'm so sorry. Somebody get the John Cena intro going.
You've exposed me.
Sixers ball. Oh, we gotta reroute here a little bit as the man of the hour shows up mid at the. What are you doing, man?
This is Irish jig. It's is it Sat? No, it's Wednesday.
What time is it?
It's Wednesday.
1:15. Franco shows up. First, again, I'm so sorry. We have to redirect the show. We'll get back to you, Griffin. I'm apologies.
Yeah, what happened? What is this about?
One, Franco, how did the show go? First of all, you were promoting it last night. Went well.
It went fantastic. Just got home from Boston. Full crowd at the Wilbur Theater. Sold out show. It went
Love to
fantastic.
hear that. Second thing I'm going to say is you're showing us up. You came dressed to impress. Again, you're embarrassing us in what I feel like is lazy attire now, what I'm wearing, my black shirt. I thought I had something going here, and then you show up in I'm gonna have to break out the suit.
It's the new dress code on Celtics Talk Weekly from here on out.
I might. All right, Griffin, I'm so sorry.
I'm all for the suits. I mean, I got the jacket on every night.
Seamus has it there. Seamus has got it, right?
I'm just here so I don't get fined.
Jackets, NBA.
But here comes Franco, right?
Folks.
In WWE fashion at 1:15 at night, taking over the show. I'm loving it. Thanks for joining, Franco. All right, back to some Celtics, though.
Yeah, great fit, Franco. But yeah, hold on. Where was I really quick?
Better than last year.
Yeah. Oh,
cohesion.
Thank you.
Yeah, I got you.
Anyways, it's just undeniable that it's just that chemistry. I mean, playing now having Porzingis, you've been able to play with him a lot more. Obviously, you guys seen he's been injured, but there's still been more time to play with Kristaps Porzingis. I mean, Rob, you already mentioned it. Everyone got better this year. So right. you think about that and just the chemistry is clicking. Like, I mean, you look at it, championship DNA, you said that again. We won the title already, and you brought everyone back. So it's like, how could you not be better? You know, it's like you see this team clicking, and it's not like other teams. I can't even. It's not like other teams though, where all right, look, you get old, but no, the chemistry is there and it's going well. And honestly, I'm gonna say we haven't seen it all season that this year is better, but there's parts where it's like, all right, once playoffs come around, we're going to see the chemistry clicking like we are right now. Like tonight, a big team win like tonight. You're going to see that chemistry getting together. And ultimately, when they get to playoffs and they taste that playoff air, it's time to win banner 19. So ultimately, I'm going to say this team is better. And I feel like you're going to probably, I don't know, but I feel like you might see better opponents this playoffs. And that's where it's going to come into play. So I think ultimately, to answer your question, yes, the Boston Celtics are a better Boston Celtics this year.
And can I throw out a question for that answer was, do you think that the teams around the NBA have improved to like a drastic standard to a point where like we can look at the Cleveland Cavaliers compared to last year?
Right.
Or the another example is the New York Knicks with all the acquisitions they made this offseason. We don't know what they're going to look like come playoff time, but
that's a great question too.
Yeah.
And I'm just going to, and no, they haven't. And a lot of people say they have, but in my opinion, one team got better, a singular team, and that's the Oklahoma City Thunder.
Yeah.
And I look around the league, that's the only team where I'm like, okay, this team made clear roster adjustments, right? And are playing better basketball versus last year. Defensively, what Oklahoma City does is undeniable. I mean, the addition of Hartenstein and the addition of Alex Caruso, right, which is really where their mindset was. It was apparent. It worked. They're playing good basketball. One thing with Oklahoma City, like Seamus said earlier, what's their average age? Like 24, 25. So that's the one like hanging thread that's like, oh, I don't know if this is this thread might cut and they might fall apart in the playoffs. So in reality, it's like, no, like the league as a whole hasn't gotten better because there's a chance that the route the Celtics take, they don't see either Cleveland or Oklahoma City, which are like the only two teams where there's a viable or like a case to say, yeah, they have been better. Cleveland, on the other hand, real quick, they got the Hunter trade. Again, offensively, I like what that does for them, versatility, but it's the same roster outside of the coach and DeAndre Hunter. So did they really get better, right? Or did they have a better regular season? And there's a difference. Did you get better? Did you have a better regular season? I look at Cleveland. They had a better regular season. They won some more games out of 82. I don't think necessarily in a playoff atmosphere, they got better. I think they just have one, and I know that might sound crazy. They just have one more games, but the league as a whole, Franco, I love that question. I don't think it got better, right? It's not like there's just this magical increase in talent all of a sudden in you know 1 year and the league's better. No, actually, league wide, the Celtics are still 9 games up of the 3 seed. And you look out west, and the Thunder are still 13 games up from the 2 seed. So it's like, no, there's still really top heavy teams. No, the answer to me, no, it didn't.
Can I have like an add-on question to that? Do you think it was just the amount of injuries in playoffs last year? Do you think it's kind of going to be like the same? It was just the fact that there were so many more injuries and making the matchups easier in a sense, would you say?
I think every team, like, there's never going to be an NBA playoff that we don't have that one team that says only if this player wasn't injured. So that's kind of not a concern, but just a fact of life when it comes down to the NBA. No one's going to be able to make it through a full playoff series without a player going down or whatnot. As much as I wish that every team would never get injured and we could just have injury-free rosters just out there for NBA for the playoffs and just being able to see every team at their most potential talent that they can put out there. But I just think that injuries are something that a lot of teams have had to deal with, like, during playoff time, and just seeing how teams respond to those injuries as well is a huge testament towards whatever the team is willing to be able to succeed.
Right.
Well, talking about better, best, worst in the NBA, first of all, the Boston Celtics, have they gotten better? It's a possibility because, number one, you have to look at it in this way. Last playoff run, the Boston Celtics didn't have Kristaps Porzingis. I mean, even a little bit of Kristaps Porzingis this playoff run. And let's actually take out a little bit because we did see him a little bit last playoff run. How about the whole playoff run? How about half of the playoff run? How about a good majority of the playoff run for Kristaps Porzingis? If Porzingis is around, if KP is in the lineup, the Boston Celtics should be better this run than they were last run. Does that mean they're going to get it done in as many games? They're going to lose 3 times? No, that doesn't mean that at all. I mean, the Celtics could be better this year than they were last year, simply off of chemistry, and other teams got better around them, makes it a tougher competition for the Boston Celtics. However, the Boston Celtics, without whether or not the Cavaliers got better, whether or not the Thunder got better, the Celtics can still get better as well and be a better team than they were last year, and still run into to some tough competition within these teams. But just simply looking at where the Celtics stand today versus last year, this team should have more cohesion. They should have more chemistry. I mean, that middle portion of the season was actually very important for this Boston Celtics club to go through, because if they didn't have that, if they faced adversity in this year's playoffs without facing that adversity in January and February, what would the response have looked like, or what could it have looked like in the future? Because this team really didn't face adversity all that often last season, whether it was the playoffs or regular season. And then this regular season, they finally face adversity. They come out of it, they prove themselves from it. And now all of a sudden, there's this data point at the end of the year going into the playoffs that we battled adversity halfway through this year. We know who we are as a team. We found our identity as a team, and we know how we're going to go out there and play on both ends of the floor. That's who the Celtics can be come playoff time. And last year, they had not faced that adversity in the regular season. They were just simply dominant throughout the regular season and the playoffs. This year wasn't quite the same. However, that could actually build stronger cohesion within the team and within the team's chemistry at the end of the year. So, Griffin, when we started all this, before Franco came out from the rafters in here,
rudely.
Wait, Griffin, when you talked about their chemistry, the team's chemistry, I mean, I was thinking that's a perfect answer. I mean, the team's chemistry from last year to this year, this is their second year together. Theoretically, they should be better. But not only that, they have a couple of things on their side right now. And you, Rob, you kind of mentioned it, where number one, Peyton Pritchard is just a better player off the bench than he was last season. Comparing him to this season, Jason Tatum is a legitimate MVP candidate, really third best player in the league behind Jokic and SGA this season, and himself within this offense. We were just talking about it the other night. It just seems to be coming easy to himself right now, and where Jason Tatum is within his game and his prime, he is a player who can undoubtedly carry the Boston Celtics to where they want to go and be that player that at the top of the roster we see on great dominant championship squads. We've seen it time and time again in NBA history. You need those great players, those really all-time great players at the top of your roster. Jason Tatum has turned into that all-time great player at the top of the Celtics roster. Jaylen Brown, I wouldn't say Jaylen Brown has made improvements this season, but to me, he's the same player as he was last year. And what we saw last year was a Finals MVP, an Eastern Conference Finals MVP. And we saw tonight, I mean, we could get off onto a tangent about Jaylen Brown. I thought we could talk about this maybe later. I was thinking, Jaylen Brown's knee issue, is that a concern? You look at some of his box scores the last couple of games, you look at the games he's missed. Is it going to be a concern? Well, that concern kind of went away tonight with Jaylen Brown. He's still a huge part of this championship team, but Tatum, he's better, like you said, Rob. Pritchard, he's better. And Porzingis, if we just get anything out of Porzingis come playoff time, really the majority of the playoff run, that's just adding Porzingis, period. He doesn't even have to be better. And they mentioned on the broadcast on ESPN tonight, Porzingis actually looks like he's playing some of his best basketball in Boston right now. And to simply have that player with the Celtics, the Celtics from last year to this year, it's certainly plausible this team got better in multiple aspects, whether it's the team chemistry or the individual accolades and performances. This Celtics team, I do think at this point in time could be better than last year's team, considering where they're at right now. I mean, last year's team didn't do it. This year's team, they have a history of doing it, and they're starting to show signs of, okay, they're ramping up into the playoffs. They're hitting, they're clicking at the right time. This is the exact time in the season you want to be playing well going towards the playoffs. I mean, seriously, 9 games left in the season, and the Celtics, they're on a 7-game win streak. And we put this into perspective. Back in January, we couldn't even get 3 in a row. I mean, it was 2 in a row. It was like, whoa, 2 in a row, great. 3 in a row was unthinkable. And when we came in here after 3 in a row, I was like, finally. And now it's just casually 7 in a row. And again, we talked about on the schedule a couple games ago, a loss just doesn't seem imminent. We don't go into these games anymore thinking, dangerous trap game, loss, here we go. No, a lot of these games, I know some of the opponents aren't that great for the Boston Celtics, but the Celtics are coming out and taking care of business. I mean, the Suns, they're on a little bit of a roll lately, and they're trying to keep that last play-in spot out west. The Celtics beat them by 30 tonight, 30
Right.
on the road out west. I mean, this is what great ball clubs do at the end of a season, and the Celtics are doing it now, and they're signaling that every signal to me from the Boston Celtics right now is we are ready to go on another major run in this year's playoffs. What it will look like at the end, I don't know yet, but at this point in time, I know the Boston Celtics, they're going to be there. They're simply going to be there when it's all said and done, or when really the nitty gritty of the NBA playoffs is coming around. Some of the later rounds, I see this Boston Celtics club ramping up into, I think, a special moment come playoff time. As for all these other teams, yeah, they got better, but you have the Boston Celtics. They still exist, folks. They still
Right.
exist. That's kind of the theme that Tim Legler was talking about tonight. It's like, folks, the Boston Celtics, they still exist. They still exist. Like, okay, see, Cleveland. It's like, yeah, Boston, they're still right there. It's like people love the new shiny object until that shiny object wins a couple of trophies and takes home a bunch of hardware and, well, becomes that old rusty object at the end of the day.
And you know what? Something we talked about on the post-game shows back in January was obviously there's a lot of factors that go into a team repeating, but one of the biggest factors really just comes down to, does the team want to do it? Does the organization want to do it? Does the team want to do it? Kind of saw that vibe in Denver. The organization kind of settled. They're like, okay, we got one. We're okay with losing a key factor, a key piece in Bruce Brown. We don't really want to spend the money. Do we really want to do this? What happened? They got bounced in the second round. That was in question, I think, in January, right? Do the Celtics want to do this? Is it apparent? They're kind of playing some lousy ball over 20 games. We're going to have to wait and see if they can ramp it up post All-Star break. Here we are post All-Star break, and we're 15-3. And like you just said, Seamus, all signs are pointing to, yeah, Boston absolutely wants to repeat. And I think that is really the hardest part in the process of repeating is, can you juice out another run? And can you find that will and that hunger you had the prior year when you weren't the champion, right? Can you repeat that? Can you replicate that? Because that really is a major factor in repeating and just winning one is your will and you're determined to win, as corny as it might sound. And the Celtics have found that. And I agree with you so much. They're ramping up and they're playing, and their play is very apparent. There's attention to detail. Guys, the Phoenix Suns in this first quarter of this game scored 38 points. They went on to what? Someone who's 70 points from the 80 points for the rest of the game. Hold on. No,
Wait,
I'm
what
so
did they
sorry.
start out with?
Yeah.
What was this?
64 points for the rest of the game. And after that first quarter, Joe Mazzulla came on. He was interviewed and he said, our defense was bad. We got to play better defense. They said, what did you do well? He said, I'll tell you what we didn't do well, and that was the defense. And this is a Boston team, like Seamus, like you just said, they're on the road. They're without their best player, right? Kind of felt like a trap game that we used to saw back in January, right? Phoenix is playing really well, some good basketball, 4-1 in the last 5. Durant's been on a tear. Come out, right? Boston puts up 42. Phoenix survives that punch, and they're only down 4 at home. What does Boston do? They hunker down on the defensive end of the floor, and they say, hold up. Defense. We got to remember, defense. And they were able to do that. And that, to me, is so impressive, where here we are in a shootout. Boston ends the quarter, and we talk about mid-game adjustments. Joe, we need to see mid-game adjustments. I got to give props to Joe. Mid-game adjustments. He said, hold on, guys. He rallied the troops. We got to play defense. If we want to win this game, we need to show up on the defensive end of the floor. That's what's going to win it for us. Boston answered the call. 64 points in 3 quarters, guys. That's some dominating stuff on the defensive end of the floor. So when you look at this game, really, and it's funny because I said it, Seamus, you said it just 3 games ago. It's like, how much can you really pull out of these games? Well, maybe you can pull something, right? Because this was a game when the opposing team needed to win. They're tied right now for the 11th and 10th seed in the play-in. This is a team that really, they're not building for the future. They're not content with missing the playoffs. If this team misses the playoffs or the play-in, it's going to be a big hit to them and where the trajectory of the season was supposed to go. Exactly. So this game, to me, was very impressive from more than one aspect, because you just look at what transpired on the defensive end of the floor post first quarter. That's championship level stuff. So shout out Missoula guys and shout out the other guys, because defensively, and I've talked about this with what's the biggest sign that Boston's ready for the playoffs. It's their defense right now, guys. Don't let the the high scoring glamour right in the Shireman's Rondo-esque type of moves fool you. What really is the difference right now with this Celtics team? Defensive end of the floor, guys. What do we think?
I want to say this. You really talked about it. You look at that first quarter, the Phoenix Suns had 38, but then you look at the rest of the game. I mean, the Celtics in the second quarter kept them to 16 points, and then you fast forward to the third quarter, they kept them to 27. All right, that's a little up there. But then in the fourth quarter, 21 points. I mean, you said it, Joe Mazzulla. I love what his thoughts were. Instead of being like, all right, let's go have a shootout, he's like, all right, let's cut this team off. Let's start playing better defense. We're slacking on the defensive side of the ball. And ultimately, you guys know it. Defense wins championships. It's undeniable. And the Boston Celtics tonight came out here, and the first quarter, like we said, had some slack, but then they picked it up. They picked up the pace. They were playing hard on defense. I mean, they were just forcing they were making the shots hard, and that's what I love to see. And I just love the effort, and it shows how much Joe Mazzulla cares, and it shows how much this team cares. Like when they're struggling, it's like, all right, let's not give up. Let's not give up. All right, let's get together, let's make something happen, let's all click, and let's bring something together, and let's play good defense. And that's what you saw. I mean, the Boston Celtics, as of recently, have been playing some of the best defense they have all year long. I mean, they've been keeping teams. I think you mentioned this even a couple of nights ago, Rob, that they've been keeping teams kind of to that 9.
Well, here it is. Over the 7-game win streak, I'll give it to you. 91, 111, 96, 99, 116, 95, 102.
Look at that. Look at that. Like, that's good defense. And that's where we saw some struggles even last year of, all right, the Boston Celtics aren't playing defense anymore. It's going to be a shootout game. But I love the thing I valued so much from the Boston Celtics when Ime Udoka was the coach is the Boston Celtics effort on the defensive side of the ball. And then it kind of when Joe Mazzulla took over, they're like, all right, let's shoot the lights out. Let's beat them on the offensive side of the floor instead of kind of having more so defense. And let's not be the best defensive team. Let's shoot the lights out and then play some good defense. Now you're kind of seeing you didn't see a lot of it in the earlier stages of the season. Now you're finally seeing them click again on the defensive side of the ball, and they understand how important defense is. And just Joe Mazzulla getting them together and being like, all right, let's have like 38. No, we don't want 38 points. And then cutting them to 16 points that next quarter is just unbelievable. And I love to see the defense back in Beantown. I love to see it.
Two quotes that came to mind when Rob was speaking and talking about this team, and like obviously as simple as it is, I doubt there's ever a time that the Celtics are walking into a game going, man, I don't think that we want to win this. However, there are the two quotes that I remember is when Derek White was saying that he wasn't having fun on the court anymore, and Kristaps Porzingis, while that rough stretch was going on, saying we can turn this on whenever we want to. That kind of just like, I don't know if that's a display of the effort levels shifting over and them starting to gain more confidence in their team, which they knew they should have had the entire time. And I think that it's kind of during the regular season, I felt a little bit of a kiss the ring mentality with this team, a little bit sit on your laurels. You won your championship. There's nothing more that you really need to do from on with this point. But you saw that kind of switch over. I'm trying to remember which game it was, and I don't even think it was an exact game that we really saw this momentum switch. I just think it was within this team the entire time. And it just took a while for them to unlock. And it draws the question to me on how much they're conserving their energy and what this team even will look like if they are giving that 120% effort on the court. And obviously, during the regular season, it's kind of mitigated a little bit, but I feel like this team has a whole nother hemisphere that they can break into when it comes down to playoff time, because I still don't think we've seen the best version of this Boston Celtics team yet, which is pretty scary to me.
Well, that's completely correct. I wouldn't say that, considering the path this team knows from past experiences, they are getting ready to play their best basketball. That's what I see. That's what I saw in January as well. I'm going, okay, this can't be. This is not. No, I'm going to try to excuse this team as much as possible from the standpoint is it's from the standpoint of earlier this year they had to take a step back somewhere, and I believe the rise is somewhere on the horizon. Well, we've seen that rise within the record, of course, 19-4 in the last 23 games in February and March. But I think just moving forward, this team really looking at the entirety of the season has been preparing for this moment come playoff time. I mean, literally look at how the team rests Porzingis and Horford, and look at how the team has rested Drew Holiday throughout the season. I look at shoulder impingement, I go, shoulder impingement? Now I'm looking. Literally, he just missed a game for shoulder impingement. I mean, now you're trying to. Oh, his shoulder injury is lingering. No, that's an excuse to sit him out. I mean, the same as the left big toe for Al Horford. It's just an excuse to sit these guys out. And those have been the real bubble wrap guys throughout the season. Is Porzingis, Holiday, and Horford. And that's how the Celtics have dealt with those three is, oh, we got to put them in bubble wrap. We got to rest them strategically. Outside of those three guys, the rest of the team, the way it's come together now at this point in the year, I really do believe the best basketball could be in front of the Celtics. And to me, where they've been before, this is where I just see a huge difference in the Celtics and every other team. It's every other team, they have players in which have not been there before and are playing major rotations, are playing major minutes in rotations in which have not really truly been there before. And those rotations and those players, I mean, they're ramping it up all season. They don't really understand the process that, okay, after 82 games, there's going to be another 20, about 20, I was going to say 20, 25 games, depending on where you go and how dominant you are in the playoffs. Those next 20 games are going to be the most intense games of the season by far, by far. And the Celtics have just prepared themselves to get ready for that moment because they understand how important it is to bring it in that moment versus a time like January, versus a time like December. The Celtics have known all season that they're getting ready for the moment still on the horizon for this team. And I believe every sign that we're seeing right now from the Boston Celtics shows that, including the defensive end of the floor. I mean, defensively, that's really where we pinpointed some of the problems early on this season. You said offensively, yeah, we had some shot chucking issues. Guys weren't necessarily making the extra pass. The offense was just discombobulated at times. But defensively, that's where we saw some of our most embarrassing moments. And you think about the Clippers game back in January. I mean, defensively, we were awful in that game. Awful. And that was terrible considering that game before, the Warriors game before, we beat the Warriors by 40. And defensively, we were amazing that game. So we were showing signs back in January of being an elite defensive team, but we just weren't putting in the effort. The Celtics, they weren't putting in. I'm talking about we, us. I mean, like we're a part of the team, but hey, I mean, Celtics Talk Weekly, Celtics Nation. We're a part of this thing. We're part of this train. But the team in general, the Celtics, back in January, some of their most embarrassing moments came on the defensive end of the floor, and that's really where you see a team's effort wane. That's the biggest place on the offensive end of the floor. I've made this point so many times this season. Offensively, you can sometimes get by hitting bad looks. You know, you can get a little lucky out there hitting certain shots. You can get to the free throw line a little bit more, hit some free throws, and you can just you can improvise and make things go your way a little bit more offensively, even if you're playing poorly. defensively, it's not like that. If you're giving up more opportunities, more open opportunities, and we saw tonight, the Phoenix Suns, and the Celtics, there was no reason to take a 2-pointer early because every 3-pointer was wide open for the Boston Celtics. I mean, that was really what happened tonight in tonight's game for the Boston Celtics, and and shooting well from three, but also taking a pretty good volume of three too, because the Phoenix Suns, they weren't defending the 3-point arc. I mean, when you see that from a defensive squad or a team playing defense, when you're not defending on the perimeter, you're not really physically getting into guys. Um, you're not defending with intent, and you're not really making them feel you. You want to make the other team feel you on the defensive end of the floor. I mean, you don't want to just allow open lanes all over the place, cutters, drivers to the basket. You don't want paint penetration. And we've seen earlier this season with the Boston Celtics, there have been times in which they've been elite in that category, and times where literally right afterwards, like the game next, right? The next game, the game right afterwards, that's when the Boston Celtics would fall off a cliff. They'd play well one game and fall off a cliff the next game. And that was a sign their effort was just going up and down, up and down, up and down. And now it just feels like, well, the effort is there every single game. Everybody knows what the stakes are. They know how close the moment is. And there's no doubt in my mind come playoff time that this team will be, the Boston Celtics will be giving their 100% effort, and that'll translate to what is going to be, I believe, an elite defensive run for the Boston Celtics, but what could also be an elite offensive run for the Boston Celtics. I think right now what we're seeing even after tonight, I mean, tonight's game really was that, go Phoenix, they're playing well as of late. Celtics West Coast, so Celtics have been playing well recently as well, and maybe the Suns get them. Wasn't even close. It was a 30-point win for the Boston Celtics, and no Jason Tatum. I mean, that's the biggest thing about tonight. No Tatum, the team would have been clueless at the beginning of this year, and now the team came out and played one of their best games all year. I mean, from a team perspective, just everybody getting involved. That's what the Celtics did, and now I just think going into the playoffs, the next 9 games, it's all obviously about staying healthy, maintaining the 2 seed, maintaining the play. But there's no doubt in my mind, come playoff time, this Boston Celtics squad, I mean, we talked about earlier, they are the most championship ready squad, and I think they'll show that at the end of this season to finish out the season. We already talked about some of the records. Are they going to get 60 wins, 62? Who knows? We'll see about that. But come playoff time, I mean, that's really when the real season starts. It's 0-0. The seeding, all the regular season, it's just for seeding. It's just for seeding. Once the playoffs start, it's 0-0 all over again. And when that happens, the Boston Celtics, I expect them to be at the top of the favorites list once again. You can't fool me with these Oklahoma City Thunder people. You can't fool me with these Cleveland Cavalier people. I mean, we've seen this all too often. We were around in 2015. We saw the Atlanta Hawks. We saw this.
Well, you said no Tatum tonight, so that called for guys to step up, and a lot of guys did step up, but there was one guy in particular tonight who stepped up to a whole nother level, and that is Kristaps Porzingis, and he is the SeatGeek player spotlight of the night, guys. Before we talk about Kristaps, I just want to give a huge shout out to the sponsor of the postgame show, SeatGeek, guys. The Celtics are on a complete roll right now, and you are not gonna want to miss them. SeatGeek has the best ticket prices on the market and have you covered for all live events, not just the Celtics, in your area, guys. Again, at checkout, use code Celtics Weekly for $20 off your first purchase. Again, Celtics are getting hot at the right time. You're not going to want to miss these guys to see them live in the Garden for a potential back-to-back championship run. Guys, let's talk about Kristaps Porzingis tonight, though. 30 points, 8 rebounds, 2 assists. He added on 2 blocks, a plus 27 on the plus-minus box score in a very efficient scoring night from KP, doing it from all levels, but really dominating inside the paint, guys. Obviously, we know Phoenix, a lesser interior team. Kristaps Porzingis, he took advantage of that and fully tonight. KP's a guy that has only played around 37 games right now here for the Celtics this season. He's been in and out of the lineup. He came back, he looked healthy, and then got hit with a weird, strange viral infection that held him out of the lineup for 8 games. He comes back, guys, and he looks like he hasn't skipped a beat. KP has been absolutely dominant these past couple of games since returning. Just how important is Kristaps Porzingis in the Boston Celtics and going back to back? Is he as important? Is he more important this year versus last year? And just if so, what has he been doing to allow him to succeed and excel these past couple games?
I'm gonna start that off, and I'm gonna say yes. Just because I want to look at this. I know you already said it, Rob, earlier that you said kind of how the Boston Celtics and the other teams this year they didn't necessarily get better, but I'm gonna have to say otherwise because I'm gonna think this every year in playoffs, everyone's hungry. Everyone wants to chase that championship. That's their goal. When you're in the playoffs, it's your goal to win the championship. So everyone's hungry. And I think just having Porzingis in that roster and having him play is just such a valuable asset to the team. And just how he's been playing recently, as of recently, has been phenomenal. I mean, we talk about it. We missed him dearly with that viral illness, but now he's back and he looks better than ever. And you heard it in the broadcast. This could have been possibly one of, if not his best game in Boston. I mean, he was just incredible with the basketball tonight. I love what I saw from Porzingis, and it's just like a highlight I like to look at back at is that first preseason game last year with Porzingis when he went in there and was just shooting the lights out. And I'm like, man, I already am a big fan of this guy, and I love what I'm seeing from Kristaps Porzingis. It's just he's phenomenal to watch. He's incredible when he's on the floor, and he's just such an important asset to this Boston Celtics team. And yes, he is needed in a playoff series. It's undeniable that he is needed in a playoff series, especially I'm going to say this, say we do match up against OKC. We're going to need Porzingis because we're going to need our full team against them because you guys saw how good of a game it was, you know? And obviously with no Porzingis, it was still a close game. Imagine having KP that game. Imagine it because it shows you that's an important matchup where you're going to need him. But ultimately, just having him back and having him, like Rob said, haven't really skipped a beat. Like, it's just incredible that we were so nervous about Porzingis about a week and a half ago. Is he even going to be back for playoffs? Is what's going on? We're scared. We were Seamus, you were making me almost pee my pants a little bit when you were telling me all of that. I was genuinely scared, but he's back, and look what he's doing.
Porzingis is going to have to contact LeVar's doctor.
Yeah,
and we don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah, I was genuinely.
That's what was happening. He's gonna have to contact LeVar's doctor. I mean,
you genuinely, Seamus, I've never met a person that's a Celtics fan that literally gets me scared like you. I was scared, but like I said, he's back. He's doing good, and the most important thing for me is I want to see, and I bet you guys could agree, the only thing I want to see is a healthy Porzingis in playoffs. And I don't want him just for one series. I don't want him having a game. I want him the whole playoff run. I want him every single game, and I want him to contribute. I think he wants that too. I think in his head, he's disappointed from last year. You guys saw how badly he wanted to be on the floor. He went out there and pretty much died game 5. He looked like Embiid last time we faced them, like big wrapped up leg, like looked like a robot. That was Porzingis essentially. He was out there like hobbling. He wanted that so bad. So I think for Porzingis, he's like, all right, yeah, that championship. All right, I got my first championship, but he wants to actually earn it because you guys know how hard of a player he is, and that probably killed him sitting on that bench. You know how much he loves Boston. He cheers his cup to the crowd every night. Boston loves him and he loves Boston, and I think he wants it so badly, and that kind of is really what is the main point of it. Like, he wants it so badly, and I think just his eagerness and his willingness to want it so bad is what's going to solidify the Boston Celtics in order to get banner 19, because I think he's one of the hungriest players on our team.
Yeah, if he is to make that switch over to becoming a more reliable and consistent player on the Celtics roster, I think that there's a chance that here's a hot take. If Kristaps Porzingis was playing at his full potential in a playoff series, there's a chance he could walk away with the series MVP. He's one of those type of caliber players, and if he wanted to, he could be up there with one of the as the big three instead of just looking at Jason Tatum and uh, Jaylen Brown as the first two scoring options, and it's really just getting him more comfortable around this team. Obviously, what we saw from him last year was that he didn't need to really gain that comfort level, but this is like the first full year that he's had under the belt of wearing a Boston Celtics jersey. So it does take a little bit of time to get fully meshed in, especially with the amount of time he's had out. I don't think I I would have to do the math really quickly just by looking at his stats, but I don't think he's played 82 games in a Celtics jersey yet. So we're still he's still kind of fresh to the Celtics tradition, and his injuries haven't helped him that much. But if he's willing to work past it, and not only work past it, be able to work around what injuries he has faced, being able to play a little bit more of a concern, less more of a passive role when it comes to playing down low in the paint. He's a big body, but he doesn't need to be down low, crashing it in the paint like against some of these larger guys. Obviously, you would like him to be able to, but it's kind of a risk factor, especially during this regular season. But when it comes down to playoffs, all rules are off. And if Kristaps wants to play, feed him, and make it. His presence that he brings to the paint is something that no one else on the Celtics team really can, just due to the fact of how effective he is within the post.
Well, Kristaps Porzingis, since coming back into the lineup, I mean, we talked. Well, first of all, let's plug this, Griffin. Earlier today, episode 31, Celtics Nation Rise podcast, we talked a little bit about Kristaps Porzingis on there, and I detailed on there some of his great games since coming back into the lineup, and well, he does it again tonight. Kristaps Porzingis, 30 points tonight. Hey, remember, if anybody goes and checks out that program as well, I go, Kristaps Porzingis, he's really good at making 9 shots tonight. You made 10 shots, 10 of 15 from the floor for Kristaps. I saw that on the box score, and I went, he must have been listening to us earlier. I mean, come on.
He watched
call
the
him out for
podcast.
9 shots. He hits 10 finally tonight. I mean, that's perfect. That's really what I wanted to see. I mean, and he did it. I mean, he came out with a better game than last. I mean, he missed that Sacramento, or what? Let's see, he missed the Portland game, but he played the Sacramento game. Yeah, that was the like which back to back does he sit out on? But he missed the Portland game. Came back for the Sacramento game. Was 5 of 13 from the field in that game, but now tonight 10 of 15 from the floor for Kristaps Porzingis. And really, I just look at the way the Celtics managed Kristaps Porzingis this season. I go, take note, Philadelphia 76ers, take note. I mean, I don't know what is wrong with Embiid when it comes to his knee. Something could be way more serious than what has ever happened to Kristaps. But at the same time, I look at it and go, they planned this season. Oh, we're going to not start the season with Embiid. We're not going to play him back-to-backs. And they made it so public, and everybody yelled at the Sixers. Plan went completely awry. Yet the Boston Celtics, they essentially had the same plan for Kristaps. They held him out the first 17 games. That was, of course, for surgery rehab. But still, they held him out the first 17 games. And after that, he didn't play back-to-backs. And look where we are with Kristaps Porzingis. He's actually healthy. He's actually hitting his stride at the best moment of the season right before the NBA playoffs. And now it seems as if Kristaps Porzingis can stay healthy these next 9 games, the Celtics will have a fully healthy Kristaps come playoff time. And considering last year he wasn't around for the playoffs and that stemmed from an injury that happened in the playoffs, we can't rule out the fact that, there are going to be more games in the future. Kristaps, got to keep him healthy, got to keep him maintained. Surely on the horizon, there's going to be moments where we go, oh, Porzingis, get up off the floor, please. But still, the Celtics right now, with the trajectory of his play and his health, Kristaps Porzingis is exactly where he needs to be. And coming off that illness, Kristaps, what he's doing right now, I would not have expected this. After missing 8 games, 9 out of 10, I mean, really, this entire Celtics team, that's what's not being paid attention to enough with this Celtics squad is really everybody's clicking right now. I mean, Jaylen Brown, knee injury, couple bad games in a row, but he had a great game tonight. You can see in his stat sheet, he was kind of a player of the spotlight. I was going to say he's a player of the spotlight candidate halfway through the game for certain. Kristaps Porzingis, he kind of took it over there near the end. But what my favorite part about Kristaps Porzingis tonight, first of all, I'll say the Celtics are clicking. To conclude the point there, Tatum MVP, Brown, he got on another heater tonight. Kristaps Porzingis, he's clicking. Peyton Pritchard, he's always on. The bench is coming together. The team basketball is coming together. Defensively, the rotations look crisp. Derek White's having good game after good game. So everybody's clicking at once. But I'll say this about Porzingis. One of my favorite moments tonight was when Porzingis put the game up 32 for the Boston Celtics and then 34. And he was just having fun. I mean, that's Kristaps Porzingis and part of the Celtics squad right now. They love to see is he's having fun. The entire Celtics team is having fun. With the Phoenix Suns, to me, it seems like there's this collection of guys who really don't like each other. I mean, the Phoenix Suns don't really look like they're a team full of great chemistry. It's a bunch of just collection of guys who I'm not sure they really like each other. Different points in their careers, different roles on the team. The Celtics, it looks like they like each other. They have fun with each other when they play basketball. Kristaps Porzingis really almost looks like he has the most fun out of anybody playing basketball out there. And tonight you saw it. There was that moment down the stretch where he put the game up 32, and then the Celtics came down, made a stop, put the game up 34, and they're just kind of pouring it on the Phoenix Suns at the end of the night. And Kristaps is just sitting there smiling. He's asking for replays. I mean, the Celtics, this was one of those games that for the Phoenix Suns, after their 4-game winning streak, it's like just embarrassing. 30-point loss, and the other team is just really toying with you at the end of the game, and you have a guy like Kristaps just kind of messing with you as well, just doing whatever he wants and asking for replays and putting the game up. I mean, well, I just want to go back to the lead tracker real quick. You can see when this moment happened in the game, the Celtics were up by 34 points, and Kristaps, so you didn't play the entirety of the fourth quarter, but you see that uptick late in the third. That's when Kristaps put a couple of those buckets in and put the Celtics up 34. And of course, the rest of the night, the Celtics were able to maintain that lead, maintain the sea of green. But that was the moment I was talking about. Really, the peak of that lead tracker tonight was Kristaps Porzingis. He caused that, and he just kept playing for the Boston Celtics. And that's really been a theme with this Celtics team as of late. But the Celtics, they do pick up another big win tonight. And last year, I will say, last year's theme of the Celtics squad was they went up a ton of points and didn't often go down too many points. And that actually seems to be true for the Celtics this season. Earlier this year, we were looking at it going, oh no, 20-point deficit's 5, and like the 20-point leads, they were somewhere at what? It was like 20, it was below 20, and we were kind of sitting there going, not as dominant as last year. But this season so far, in terms of 20-point leads, 35 of them. So think about that, guys. Think about that. The Celtics play 82 games. 41 games is halfway through. In 35 games, so nearly half the season, the Boston Celtics at some point in the game had a 20-point lead. That is incredible. And you think about the full 82-game schedule, and really the 35 you think about is technically, let's see, it would be just under half right now, considering we're at game 73, if I'm not mistaken. But the 20-point deficits, regardless, 5 games. 5. Only 5 games the Celtics are down 20 in. Those are some of the biggest embarrassing moments for the Boston Celtics on the season. But you see 35 20-point leads on the season, 5 for the Boston Celtics. But in this win tonight on the road for the C's, what did you guys see as the most important aspect of this win for the Boston Celtics? What did the Celtics really show us tonight that lately maybe they haven't shown us, which I should say they've shown us quite a bit lately, but what tonight did they show us that impressed the most? And we'll start with you, Franco.
You're asking the wrong guy. I didn't watch a second of tonight's game. I'm breaking fourth wall here, but I just from seeing the way this team has carried out their through this season, and when it comes down to these 20-point leads and deficits, when they are able to carry out these wins, it's being able to get those contributions from your bench, being able to have those guys like the Sam Hauserds and the Peyton Pritchards being able to fill in on the scoreboard, not allowing the defensive lapses during the third and fourth quarters of games that force players like Tatum and Brown to come in during the final garbage time minutes of a game against the Phoenix Suns in Game 73 of the regular season. So I think that they have started to take more advantage. A lot of the rotation players have been able to take a lot more advantage of the opportunities to play on the court, especially during this stretch, and also being able to just mend in with the starting lineup, which we've kind of had a few talks about when we start to look into the long crystal ball of Boston Celtics, the 27-28. We don't know who these guys are going to be relying on to come off their bench. It's most likely going to be players like Baylor Shireman due to the CBA and how this team is going to have to work around these types of ordeals. But just being able to know what you can get out of each player has helped this team out a lot. And also something that's been kind of fresh to this team has been the mid-game coaching adjustments, something that we could probably make a whole 10-minute montage of us calling out Joe Mazzulla on last year's post-game shows, telling them to please make an in-game adjustment. And it started to develop a lot more. And one thing that I can say about Joe Mazzulla is I've always seen him as one hell of a leader of men, a great coach in that standpoint. And the fact that he's so young really is only going to allow his basketball on-court IQ, his game planning, his skills, only to grow, and he's only going to add more and more to his arsenal to be able to close out games like this. And it also, as everything ties around to, is the energy and mentality this team carries out. When they have that 20-point lead, it's not them just putting their feet on the bench. It's them going out trying to expand that lead to around 20 to 30. It's kind of funny when you're watching the Celtics during the final few minutes of a game. They will really go for that extra point just to make it an even number. Like if it's like for tonight's example, if it was 132 to 104, I guarantee the Celtics would have tried to run up for another shot just for a momentum standpoint. But I just think that we've seen a lot of growth within those places of this team, and also just holding on to leads has been a key thing for this team, and something that really faded away during the inconsistent run of January and February.
My answer is going to be quick because I'm going to sound like a broken record. But what I loved most from this game, I said earlier in the post-game show, is just keeping our foot on the gas pedal. It's what I love to see. We talked about bad habits. We've constantly been on bad habits. The Boston Celtics are making bad habits by keeping their foot on the gas pedal and slowly letting it off. Almost blew that game against Utah, not the recent one, but the one before. And there's been a lot of games either they were close to blowing it or they did blow it. But you look at it, the Boston Celtics have been starting to make better habits, and that's what can transpire into playoffs. I mean, the Boston Celtics tonight, they had the lead and they kept with it. They kept their foot on the gas pedal. They did not get bored. And instead of just like being lazy and playing lazy basketball, they had fun. Instead of doing like, all right, let's use this for example. There's been so many games where you see Derek White just walk up the floor, Jason Tatum walk on the floor, go back and walk up on the floor when they have those big leads. Instead, tonight you saw Porzingis smiling and having fun. It was a fun game. They kept their foot on the gas pedal. They kept the momentum going. And that's what I love to see. I love to see them build these great habits. And that's the good habits that they need to take into playoffs. And you practicing the habits is going to transpire into playoffs. You doing bad habits is not going to be the case. When you keep doing bad habits, those get stuck in your head. Like they tell you in so many sports, If you keep doing your bad habits, that's what's going to happen. No, but the Boston Celtics are like, all right, let's keep our foot on the gas pedal. Let's see what happens. Then they're going to know in playoffs, all right, we can't let up. We can't let up because that's how you lose. And that's what I love. Ultimately, I think it came down to just keeping their foot on the gas pedal. And you saw that win. And it was just, honestly, it was a textbook win for the Boston Celtics in the fact of getting the work done and keeping the momentum going throughout the game.
Well, yeah, I mean, for me, the thing that impressed me most about the Boston Celtics in this game, Griffin, you talk about the good habits, but the team basketball from that perspective, the good habits built on that end of the floor. What continues to impress me is really the execution from the Boston Celtics game after game, and in games where really we thought the Boston Celtics would they come into these games and think, these aren't big games. Nets, Jazz, Heat, Suns, all these games, the Kings, the Trailblazers, the Sixers, all those games in between some of the bigger games, the Lakers, the Nuggets game, the Thunder game, the Cavaliers game. Between all those games, the Boston Celtics in all of those other games we're talking about, a game like tonight against the lesser opponent, what the Celtics did is not roll over and play down to their opponent. We've seen that so many times this season, particularly earlier on in the season. Teams like the Wizards, the Raptors, we played down to some of our competition, the Boston Celtics did. Well, now at this point in the season, it's just complete annihilation. And there's some nuance to that. Some of these teams are tanking right now, and there's a mutual stance within the game. The Celtics, hey, we want to grab another win to add to our record at the end of the day and our playoff standing, whereas these teams want another loss for their NBA lottery standing. So there is some mutual agreements within some of these games for the Celtics at the end of the year, but regardless, the Celtics are coming out and they're executing specifically on the offensive end of the floor. That is where, to me, the team is impressing. I know they're impressing on both ends. We're talking about them a lot defensively, but offensively, I mean, he didn't play tonight. Tatum did not play tonight, and the Celtics offense wasn't a mess. I mean, it seemed like it really ran seamlessly, and it ran through guys like Derek White, Drew Holiday, and Jaylen Brown, and even Kristaps Porzingis. I mean, those guys handling the ball tonight. And I know, like, some of these guys aren't the biggest ball handler. Like Kristaps Porzingis, I'm not talking about him really handling the ball, setting up the offense, but some of his opportunities down in the low post, of course, on the perimeter as well. These guys were just able to take their moments tonight and really make the most of them and improvise. Jaylen Brown, these are one of those occasions that, Jason Tatum, he doesn't miss too many games. And Jaylen Brown, when Jason Tatum does miss those games, he typically steps up and steps out. And that's what Jaylen Brown did tonight. And he already knows that's kind of his role when Jason Tatum is out, is when Tatum's out. We know Brown isn't going to be quite the playmaker Tatum is, but as the 1A, Jaylen Brown's going to go out there and dominate. He's going to score. He's going to make the right decisions. And that's what we saw tonight from Jaylen Brown and the rest of the Celtics offense. Defensively, it trickles to that end of the floor, and they really go hand in hand. The Celtics are clearly putting in their effort defensively right now. The rotations look tremendous out there. And I'll say this, the Celtics effort wise, that is something that's just shining through, because this point in the year, the Celtics, what's the motivation? I mean, it's obviously championship or bust here, but at the end of the year, it's against lesser teams. It's at the end of the schedule. They could coast into the playoffs. Oh, the 2 seeds kind of maintain. They're going for health. Instead, they come out and they dominate some of these games. I mean, they're not just playing ball with some of these teams, they're dominating. And yes, there were a couple of moments where some teams hung around the Celtics, the Heat, the Nets, but otherwise the Celtics have been fairly dominant throughout this stretch, especially when it comes to the late portion of games. And that's what we saw again tonight. The biggest lead of the game came both in the late third quarter and early fourth quarter, and that's what we like to see from the lead tracker and out of the Boston Celtics, is that uptick late in the game. But furthermore, on the Boston Celtics, the Celtics have been tremendous on the road. This was yet another road win tonight for the Boston Celtics. And all of a sudden, first of all, I'll point this out. Maybe different eras of basketball contribute to this statistic. Just throwing it out there. But per Sean Grandy, who is really the Dick Lipe of Twitter, and we're actually going to get into Dick Lipe here in a little bit. But NBA best road scoring differential. This is in history. The 1972 Lakers, they're number one, but look who's number two and number three. The Boston Celtics are number 2, just 0.02 points over the Oklahoma City Thunder, this year's Oklahoma City Thunder, at number 3. Then you have the 1970 Knicks, and then you have the 2025 Cleveland Cavaliers, and then you have a couple Celtics teams on there from 08, 2022, 2024, even 2018 Houston on there. Surprised to see them. San Antonio 2007 title winning team there. So I'll point this out about this list of teams. Best road scoring differential. A lot of these teams have titles. A couple of these teams just missed out on it, whether it's missing the finals via the conference finals, like the 2018 Rockets, obviously the 2022 Celtics. They were in the finals, didn't win it there, but a lot of these teams have rings at the end of the day. 08 Celtics, the San Antonio Spurs in 2007, and obviously the 2024 Boston Celtics are on here as well. But at the top there, you see Boston 2025. They're number 2 right now in terms of road scoring differential. And the Boston Celtics, well, they add to that again tonight, beating the Phoenix Suns by 30 points. But that brings me into the Phoenix Suns. I do want to talk about the Phoenix Suns here for a second from the standpoint of we're going to play them again. Phoenix Suns, they're up on the schedule yet again when the Celtics return home to the Garden after the month of March. And this team tonight, coming into this game, is 4 straight wins for the Phoenix Suns. People thought they were turning their season around. They grabbed that 10 seed from the Dallas Mavericks. Suns were hovering around 11 for the last couple weeks, and then all of a sudden the Dallas Mavericks just went off a complete cliff with how many injuries that team is facing right now. Everybody's terming it the Luka curse now, but the beneficiaries of the Luka curse, the Phoenix Suns, because the Dallas Mavericks, they slot in at 11 now. The Phoenix Suns are at 10 in the play. Obviously, Kevin Durant's on the roster, Devin Booker, Bradley Beal. That's the sort of big 3 there. I mean, they're not mid 3, but the big 3 is, I don't know about this big 3. They're obviously there in Phoenix making hefty salaries, but looking at Phoenix moving forward. Now, Griffin, we talked about Kevin Durant earlier and the Boston rumors, but if you're the Phoenix Suns this summer and you're looking at the Kevin Durant situation, looking at the entire roster situation, what would be your first move if you were the Phoenix Suns GM? And we'll start with you, Griffin.
I'm gonna say it. It's honestly, you gotta be honest. They're falling. They're falling. I mean, the Phoenix Suns. We talked about it earlier in that podcast too, how the Phoenix Suns almost won a championship. I mean, they were there against Milwaukee, with DeAndre Ayton, Chris Paul, Devin Booker. They were there. They were there. They could taste it. Then you messed up the team. You traded a lot of your key assets over to Brooklyn for Kevin Durant. And look what happened. Have we seen even close to a championship? No, we've seen the opposite. They've been going way down. They've been down a deep hill. So I would honestly say if it doesn't work out this year, you could run it back one more time, try to make some moves, make this team a little bit better. But ultimately, I think if it doesn't work out, it's time to rebuild in Phoenix. Keep your core, keep Devin Booker, but build around him. I feel like getting Kevin Durant was just a superstar that they were trying to kind of replace Devin Booker and have Devin Booker work with him. But I think ultimately you gotta rebuild. I think they had so much talent and they were at their peak, but this could be coming into a rebuild. I don't know if you agree, but what are your thoughts?
So, do you want to know who is the most expensive team in the NBA this season?
Is it the Boston Celtics or is it the Phoenix Suns?
No, it is the Phoenix Suns. They are sport. First of all, the Boston Celtics. They're third. Second is the Minnesota Timberwolves.
Second is the Timberwolves.
Oh yeah. Gobert contract.
Okay,
You got Anthony. Yeah. I mean, you get Jaden McDaniels. Yeah, they get some big contracts there in Minnesota. Mike Conley. But the Phoenix Suns sporting a number 214 million for their entire salary sheet. 214 million. That's first in the NBA. Minnesota, they're second, 202 million. and the Boston Celtics 193 million. Then you have the Knicks, and then you have the Lakers. But the Phoenix Suns, just looking at their roster right now, first, let's get into this. The free agents next year: Damian Lee, Mason Plumlee, Monte Morris, Tyus Jones, Bol Bol. Those guys, highly replaceable. I like Tyus Jones defensively. I think he's a little bit of a liability. Doesn't create much size out there for the Phoenix Suns, but I think offensively, they brought him in because last year the Phoenix Suns, part of their problem, everybody thought, oh well, injuries and they just didn't have enough ball handling, and well, maybe if they had a ball handler, this would go a little better for the Phoenix Suns. Instead, it's no, they brought in Tyus Jones, one of the best ball handlers in the NBA when it comes to assist turnover ratio, and the Suns still weren't all that good on the offensive end of the floor, either, I should say, both ends of the floor this season. We have Tyus Jones. He's really the most important free agent I see next year, but he came in on a minimum, so it's like, how important will he be to the Phoenix Suns come free agency? All these other guys, you're probably not re-signing. Monte Morris, I was thinking about him tonight. I'm thinking, his NBA career ever since he left Denver, it's like it hasn't quite worked out the way people have thought. Everywhere he's gone, it feels like, oh, we got Monte Morris, backup point guard, and it's just like he doesn't really contribute the way you'd want him to as a backup point guard.
Can I add
But
something?
outside of that, you have Kevin Durant, $54.7 million expiring. Talked about this earlier. The Phoenix Suns, they're gonna have to move that deal if Kevin Durant wants out this summer. They don't necessarily have to. I would definitely advise them to, from the standpoint of, you're going to have a $54 million expiring deal. Why would you just let Kevin Durant go expired and walk for nothing? This is where the Suns are in a little bit of a tricky predicament with Kevin Durant. They gave up all this draft capital and assets, obviously. I mean, Mikal Bridges, Cam Johnson. I mean, look at both of those players. I think I'd rather have both of those guys than just one Kevin Durant nowadays. That's really what I believe out there. But those two guys are gone from Phoenix. You have Kevin Durant. You traded away all these assets, picks all over the place. If you're the Phoenix Suns, well, they had a thought in their mind that, okay, Kevin Durant's going to be here a couple seasons. But there's also another thought that, hey, Kevin Durant, maybe if we wanted to move off Kevin Durant, we could kind of rekindle some of these assets, bring in more assets for ourselves that we lost from the Kevin Durant trade. Well, the Phoenix Suns, after these last two seasons, Kevin Durant obviously had an MVP like season last year. Had a solid season this year. Still having a solid season. I mean, 16 points in the first quarter tonight, 30 points in the game. He's still Kevin Durant. Yet, next year he's gonna be in the back half of his 30s. His teams haven't been too happy. He's not all there defensively. Offensively, he's becoming more of a one-trick pony. He's not as great of a driver anymore. He's more of just a pure jump shooter now. He's obviously always relied on his jump shot to score a lot of points in his game, but just that driving aspect, that dominant driving aspect, is just not there from Kevin Durant anymore. That's why Jason Tatum has to be above Kevin Durant nowadays in the NBA. It's like, Kevin Durant, he can't even. I mean, Jason Tatum, he drives the ball aggressively, takes to the hole. Kevin Durant, he can't do that as well in his game anymore. So that's why Jason Tatum, just talking about those two players real quick, that's why he would have to have the edge over Kevin Durant, is that aspect of the offensive end of the floor. But Kevin Durant, I don't see a team giving Phoenix a million picks. I don't see them giving up good players. This is going to be like the Jimmy Butler situation in my mind, where and Jimmy Butler had another year on his deal. I mean, this is Kevin Durant. He doesn't have another year on his deal. You're just trading for an expiring Kevin Durant who could leave during the summer. Why would you give up all these assets? I really don't see Phoenix really netting that much for Kevin Durant if they do trade KD this summer. It's somebody who they could net a lot for, however, is Devin Booker. Because that now raises the question, do the Phoenix Suns tear it all down, trade Devin Booker, actually get some assets back for Booker, who's inching up in age? I mean, he's 30. Sorry, Devin Booker's 28 years old. I was reading Bradley Beal's age. He's 31. But Devin Booker, he's 28 years old. He's in his prime. The Suns are now wasting Devin Booker's prime. Beforehand, he was before his prime, before the bubble, still developing. That was still developing team. As he started to come into his prime, the Suns making some finals runs, 2021, 2022, didn't make the finals, but went to the Western Conference semifinals, 64-win team that year. Yet now, Phoenix, the last 2 years, they tried to contend, or rather the last 3 years, tried to contend with this core group of Kevin Durant, Bradley Beal, and Devin Booker. yet it hasn't really come to fruition the way everybody thought. This team definitely looks discombobulated, looks disinterested, doesn't look all there as a team. And now the Suns have to consider, well, we're moving off of Kevin Durant. This might be a good time to move off of Devin Booker as well, net some assets for Devin Booker while he's in his prime, and just simply rebuild. It's going to be the Suns don't have many picks as they shipped them all away for guys like Beal and Kevin Durant, but could net some back for a guy like Devin Booker when and look at a team like Houston out there. They have some pretty good assets. Couple of guys who you could definitely net in a deal where they go, oh, Houston doesn't use this guy too often. His value isn't as high as a young guy as it should be. Maybe a guy like Cam Whitmore in Houston. Houston does have a couple of picks, a slew of picks from deals they've made in the past. So maybe Devin Booker to Houston. That's something that happens later on in time. Just pointing out a team like Houston could take somebody like Devin Booker. And there's, I'm sure, other teams who look at Devin Booker and go, oh, okay, maybe we slot him in out there. But you have those two guys at the top of the roster. If Bradley Beal, he's not moving anywhere. I mean, the Phoenix Suns did everything they could to move Bradley Beal at the trade deadline and could not do it. They could not make Bradley Beal waive his no trade clause. But I think what could make Bradley Beal waive his no trade clause is trading away Devin Booker, trading away Kevin Durant, leaving Bradley Beal with a carcass Phoenix Sun squad, and Bradley Beal at that point would go, you know what? I'm looking for a winning situation. And even then, I don't know if a team would trade for a contract that includes 53.6 million or really zero point 0.7 million next year and then 57.1 million. It's a player option the year after this. So Bradley Beal, he's not even an asset. He's not even a factor. Just has to hinge on Booker and Durant. And that's your big three right there. But afterwards, you have Grayson Allen, Royce O'Neal, Cody Martin, Vasily Micic, who they got from the Charlotte Hornets, Nick Richards, who also the Phoenix Suns got from the Charlotte Hornets. I like Nick Richards. He's not too bad of a young big out there, I'll say that. Ryan Dunn and Osu Iguodaro, who really Ryan Dunn and Iguodaro, just both great draft picks by the Phoenix Suns. Maybe not awesome NBA players, but NBA players who can defend. Played some nice rotation minutes for the Suns this year. But just looking at the entirety of the Phoenix Suns situation, this is all becoming one of the more situations in all of the league where you go, they're just going to be left with like, the assets. Like, what exactly do they have? What exactly are they building towards going to the future? They almost feel like the Pelicans, where it's like you either kind of start, you think about building something almost with like chewed gum. Like that's what it feels like they're sticking everything together with, is that chewed gum. The Phoenix Suns, they're trying to stick it everywhere on the roster. That kind of feels like the Pelicans, what they might have to do moving forward if they don't trade a guy like, say, Zion Williamson. That's where the Phoenix Suns are with a guy like Devin Booker. And that's what I'll point out with the Suns is just Devin Booker, highly, highly tradable. And I think right now, Devin Booker, 4-13 tonight. I didn't really feel his presence in tonight's game as much as I thought I would. I think he's kind of a guy looking at the situation going, I'm unhappy. Kind of looks like Donovan Mitchell in 2022 with the Utah Jazz, where at the end of that year, it just felt like, the Utah Jazz, they're kind of scuffling here. Donovan Mitchell, he doesn't look totally engaged in these games. I mean, you knew Donovan Mitchell had 1 foot out the door when he wasn't fully engaged in 2022 at the end of that season with the Utah Jazz. That's what Devin Booker reminds me of right now, is at the end of this year with the Phoenix Suns, even though they're on a play-in push, they didn't want to be on a play-in push, we get to play a 1-game playoff scenario against the Sacramento Kings. No, the Phoenix Suns, they wanted to play for the title this year. They're not anywhere near that. I mean, this is a failure of a season in every aspect for the Phoenix Suns. And Devin Booker, he's 28. He's in his prime. He's been deep. He's been deep into the playoffs. We have that clip, that GIF of Devin Booker rather, at the NBA Finals, Game 6 against Milwaukee, and after having a 2-0 lead, after gaining a 2-0 lead in that series, the Phoenix Suns lose 4 straight games, and in that Game 6, Giannis drops 50, Bucks win the title, and there's that GIF, there's that clip of Devin Booker walking off the floor going, he's just taking in the scene going, damn, I hear rain. I swear there's no tornadoes tonight, folks, but I hear rain. I just went, damn, there's rain. There's rain. I don't know if anybody else can hear that, but that was crazy. But that's what Devin Booker, 2021 had that moment. Well, we're 4 years removed. He wants to get back to that moment. I mean, come on. He wants to get back to the NBA Finals, and right now he cannot be having fun in this situation. And I'm going to say this: I would put my money on the Phoenix Suns trading Devin Booker this summer because I think he wants out. I don't even think it's Phoenix's decision. I think he might want out. That's just the vibe he's giving me right now on the floor. That I'll just throw that out there. March 26th, 27th, 2025, Devin Booker not going to be a Phoenix Sun next year. I don't think. I don't think Kevin Durant either. I don't think so. But I will say this Phoenix Suns, what they have going for them is, hey, cool colors out west, good weather. I mean, hey, you take what you can get, I guess. Take what you can get. But the Celtics, they'll also take what they can get out of a guy like, of course, Al Horford. Because Al Horford, before we close off the show, I do want to talk a little bit about Al Horford. This from Dick Lipe. I told you earlier, hey, we're going to get into Dick Lipe. And this is, of course, the official statistician of the Boston Celtics, always giving out his stats, whether it's on Twitter or, of course, on the NBC Sports broadcast, and he giving the stats to all of the, whether it's Scal or Drew Carter. This is Al Horford's 1,134th career game. Tonight is the first time he's had at least 10 points, 6 rebounds, 4 assists, and 2 blocks by halftime, and he's 38 years old. In fact, he's the first Celtic to hit those marks in the first half during play-by-play era since 1996, 97. Now, Al Horford, I mean, come on. This man is just doing some Tom Brady stuff. He's doing some LeBron James stuff, some Chris Paul stuff. What Al Horford is doing is truly amazing. And going towards the playoffs, it looks like we're going to get a fully healthy Al Horford. And we're saying this about Horford, Porzingis. There's still 9 games left, but these guys, they're just hitting their stride. If they can keep their health, they're really hitting their stride. But from you, Griffin, right now, Al Horford, what do you think is really making the difference in his game now compared to earlier this season when we saw him struggle a little bit to the point where he's becoming a little bit elite, a little dominant in some portion of the game, especially defensively?
I mean, you look at it. I wrote this down too on my notes. I said, Al Horford's in his 20s, right? Right? No, but in all seriousness, like he's just dominant. I mean, just his effort. You would see a lot of his dunks tonight. It's just like, how is he at the age he's at? How is he doing that? And it's just incredible. I think the thing is, the whole team was in a slump this year. Like when we were in those struggles, the whole team was in a slump. But ultimately, he got that taste. He got that first championship, and now he wants to go back to back. I mean, he smells it. He smells it, and he knows playoffs are ramping up. It's time for him to get, his legs right. It's time for him to start giving a little more dominance in his performances. And you saw it tonight. I mean, tonight, like you talked about, 16 points, 10 rebounds, 5 assists, 1 steal, and shot 50%. I mean, wow, he was
all
a
around game, all around Al.
And it's like, it's so hard, like we already mentioned, it's so hard to give one player tonight the player spotlight because it was such a team effort. It's like you look at Al, he had a phenomenal night. You look at Jaylen Brown, he had a phenomenal night. Drew Holiday, Derek White, like everyone had such a good night, and it's so hard to be like, oh, what guy do I choose? But you have to choose someone. But ultimately, Al Horford is just he's stepping right into the fountain of youth right now, and it's about time for him to start ramping up for playoffs, and that's exactly what he's doing because he just took another step in that fountain of youth.
100%. I mean, Al Horford, the muscle milk. I'll say it again. I said it on a broadcast earlier this season. The muscle milk that Al Horford drinks and the sponsorship in which Muscle Milk took out on Al Horford, best sponsorship of all time, because people are looking at that Muscle Milk going, does that stuff really work? I mean, Al Horford, 38 years old. He's going to be 39 in June, 17 years of NBA experience. And I really just the experience cannot be replaced. That's what I talked about earlier with the Celtics championship run, is some of this experience cannot be replaced for the Boston Celtics. I mean, you just can't. 17 years of experience. I mean, there are guys out there. We're talking about the Thunder. I mean, some of these guys have 3, 4, 5 years experience. Al Horford had 17. And is he as spry as some of these young guys? No. But is he athletic enough to hang with some of them? Is he experienced enough, knowing the positioning and some of all the little nitty-gritty details of the game of basketball, specifically on the defensive end of the floor where Al Horford makes his biggest impact? 100%. Al Horford is going to be crucial to this Boston Celtics playoff run in a way that I don't think many people are expecting out of Al Horford. He really was last year, considering Kristaps Porzingis was out of the lineup. But now Al Horford, there's going to be less pressure on him to actually produce if Kristaps Porzingis is in the lineup come playoff time. And from that standpoint, I think Al Horford, he's going to be able to just exhaust his tank and go absolutely crazy. And the shape he's in right now, and I'll just say this, the entirety of the Boston Celtics team and the coaching staff, the training staff, I mean, my goodness, they're all in shape right now. Luke Cornett, he's in the best shape of his career. Kristaps Porzingis comes back, 8 games missed. He's still in shape, doesn't miss a beat. Al Horford, I mean, he looks more spry out there now than he did 3 years ago at the Boston Celtics. I mean, some of these guys, they are in prime shape right now, and that is just a testament to the training staff and all their individual programs the players have and their level of bought in to their programs, to the team's program at this point in the season. This team is, and it's embodied by Al Horford, this team is 100% in shape. And that is something that will undoubtedly come playoff time play into the Celtics' hands, and especially a guy like Al Horford's. But before we do get off here, as we come to the end of the show tonight, Jason Tatum, he was on the bench tonight, as we don't see too often. We've seen some rest days out of Jason Tatum, but this one was a rest/injury day for Jason Tatum. But Jason Tatum, he came all dappered up to the party because Jason Tatum, first of all, look at that ESPN graphic. Jason Tatum, he leads the team in points per game, rebounds per game, and assists per game. I mean, that's their third best team in the entire NBA, second best in the Eastern Conference. Jason Tatum leads in all these great categories: points, rebounds, assists per game. But Jason Tatum, the real highlight, I mean, we cannot go a post game or a Celtics game period without a Jason Tatum highlight. I mean, it's impossible. Even when he doesn't play, we have to have at least some Jason Tatum highlight out there. And tonight, it's Jason Tatum's attire. Has the OVO Duke shirt on, has the OVO Duke hat on, has the chains rocking. I wish Rob was in here for this. Rob, I'll say Rob's our style guy. I know for me personally, it's like I know Rob has some good style out there. I know JT has some good style. I would like to hear Rob's opinion on it, but of course, he dipped on the show earlier. We'll have to get his opinion another time on this fit from JT. But actually, wait, do we have one? I don't know. Do we have a comment in the group chat at a certain point in time, Griffin? I feel like
hang on.
I feel like we might have a comment. Yeah, he goes, "My God, Tatum's chain is nice." So there we go. Yeah, there we go. That was the commentary from Rob earlier. But yeah, Jason Tatum's fit tonight was on point. It was on point. I mean, sorry for all the North Carolina fans out there. I mean, I'm more of a Kentucky guy, like Illinois, I have Ohio State, those more my school. So I'm fine with Duke. I'm fine.
Go watch the NCAA podcast while you guys.
Oh yes, March Madness, of course, Celtics Nation Rise podcast. Yes, everybody go check that out after you're, of course, done here tonight, because Griffin, we are done here on tonight's Celtics Talk Weekly post-game show. The Boston Celtics, of course, 30-point win on the road in Phoenix, beating the Phoenix Suns 132-102. Kristaps Porzingis, our player spotlight tonight. Kristaps, 30 points, 8 rebounds, 2 assists, 2 blocks, 10 of 15 from the floor, and he's really hitting his stride at the right time, along with the rest of this Boston Celtics club, and even, hey, how about the CTW crew as well? I think we're hitting our stride too, along with the Boston Celtics going into playoffs. But that'll do it for all of us here tonight. As I always say, thank you all for watching. I'm your host, Seamus Zarlingo, alongside of me, Griffin Aldrich. As I always say,